I want to talk to you about a voyage to greatness. Too far, great. And about how I decided to be the captain of my own ship instead of a deckhand. And my story isn't nothing too sexy. I'm not one of those great software entrepreneurs who just lays on the beach and collects money all day long. I started a business, which is a service business, but it's a creative, and it's allowed me to do a lot of amazing things. Go back to college, like entrepreneurship. When did it first start for me? I believe it was my junior year. I realized that I had something somebody wanted. And what that was is I would drive 1 hour each way, so 2 hours twice a week, so 4 hours of driving, to donate some plasma for $40 a week to pay bills, to pay my rent. So I had an awesome roommate at the time who landlord would show up, he'd knock on the door, and we'd be in mid-conversation, we'd just hush, and we'd run to our closets because we didn't have enough money to pay rent. So we were driving to Cedar Rapids, which was like an hour away, just to pay rent to be donating plasma. But it was on those car rides that actually we got talking about life, so we want to do, and we were like, man, it'd be great to be your own boss, just do your own thing. What can we do that people would pay for and create a product? So you can imagine after doing about 100 of these trips, all this silly ideas, new idea every week. And eventually we landed on a business that a lot of people start right away in college, and that is a clothing line. And at first, it ran for 6 months or so. I was into it. And that was one of my first lessons of, if you're going to do something, do it 100%. Make sure your heart is all the way in it. And it wasn't completely, so I kind of ventured out. And he actually carried on for a couple years and sold it and actually made a profit, but with a hell of a lot of work. But then so graduation came around. I had to think about what I was going to do in life, because that's the next step. I just devoted 4 years of college. I have all this debt, and now it's time to utilize this degree and go make money somewhere, hopefully. So I shipped back home, like a lot of modern college kids do this day and age, to go hang out with mom and dad and apply for jobs. And what I did, I went back home, a little bit of complacency thing. I had a job offer, which was with my brother, which I went to school for video production, so a lot of cameras and computers. My brother runs a concrete construction business. So imagine moving back to the farm and busting your ass 90-degree to 100-degree weather, laying concrete for 6 months. If you want to reevaluate your life a little bit, you do something like that. Before I know it, 5 months kind of drifts by, and one morning I just wake up, it's man, I haven't really applied for jobs or anything. The question just kind of hit me, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I moved back home, I'm busting my ass laying concrete, I have skills, I have something to give to the world, and I can receive in return. So I immediately packed my stuff back up, and I was like, brother, I love you, but it's time for me to go do my thing, go on the voyage to greatness. And so I headed back up to the Cedar Valley area, and I started pounding on doors to do motion graphics, video production for anyone who would take me in. And I got an opportunity for a gentleman to do a banking commercial. And I knocked out of the park and did a couple other freelance gigs, which eventually was turned into full-time clients. Before I know it, kind of 6 months goes by, and I was like, wow, it's been 6 months, and I'm still eating and all those things, which is good. I got some clients, and then a couple years go by that I'm finally building a business. After that 6 months, I was like, I'm going to build this into a full, legitimate business. I'm going to do this. So I have Visual House, right? And this is our video production company that we focus on storytelling on the web. We work with clients in the financial industry, ag industry, nonprofits, all those areas. I was in Amsterdam recently, and I want to talk about, Mitch talked about it yesterday, but getting lost, curiosity, and what that does for me in my work. And I was walking around Amsterdam. I landed the first day, and I get out the touristy map, and it's all in a foreign language of Dutch, and I'm trying to figure out where I'm going because I want to get to exhibit. And I just jump on this tram because it looks like it's going in the right direction. I'm just sitting there, and all of a sudden I have this anxiousness just kind of built up inside me. And I'm like, I need to get over this and figure this out, figure out what kind of person I am, get very uncomfortable. So here I'm in a foreign country, just kind of traveling around, kind of figuring out the maps and the roads, and we get off, and we're trying to get to a Heineken tour, I think, another touristy spot with all these people. And I'm kind of walking with the map, and I like to, as a photographer, sometimes just wander without direction. So I just kind of fold the map up and tuck it in my back pocket. I'm like, I think it's over that way, but I'll just kind of wander these streets. Because I'd seen the sights and sounds of Amsterdam, a few touristy stuff, but it allowed me to see the authentic side of Amsterdam. Here I was 3 or 4 blocks over, no people except for the locals, 3 or 4 blocks over, just tourists galore. And it just allowed me to walk into this unique, beautiful, 4 or 5 blocks square, very authentic. Really appreciate where I was and get away from the hustle and bustle and get away from the crowds and kind of where the magic is at. Sometimes it's by yourself. Like, just don't hang with the crowds all the time. And I just got to see this beautiful artwork. There's a ship up there, which is nice. Some bikes. Amsterdam's a very bike-friendly city. You know, just kept wandering around, no direction. Think about, like, how else do I do that in life? I have these other projects that I've kind of started as a creative. Like, I'll start up, maybe it's a new business venture or a product. I mostly do it out of curiosity. You know, as children, we have a whole bunch of curiosity. I was recently at my niece's birthday party, and one of the guys brought, like, some little water toy thing. I don't know, they put it together, and everyone looks at it like, man, what does that thing do? And like, I don't know, you just put some balls in it and water splashes around. Little kids are loving it because they have imagination. We lose that as adults, our curiosity. We're so quick to, if we have one question, just like quick call someone, hope we get the immediate answer, as opposed to just kind of exploring and figuring out ourselves and tripping along the way and, you know, just learning some things about ourselves. So, like with business ventures, I do that all the time. Like, maybe it's a new project, it's a web project, and I'll just kind of geek out, get curious, and I'll dive into it, not really knowing what any of it is. And I'll be like, oh, I just need to put this product on the web, and then 100 people are going to buy it. It's that simple. Recently, we had a thing I tried to launch called Zogo, and I was like, oh, it'll be template animation, website service thing. I just got to make a couple of those, put it online. I think you just put a shopping cart up there, and bam, it should be done in, I don't know, 3 days, right? So I'm telling Josh Winkles, it's like, Josh, put this thing together in like 3 to 5 days. You know, as it goes along, you start to figure out, like, wow, I guess there's more things to this, like the shopping cart. First, you got to go to the payment processing, and then you got to link a bank account. And then maybe I should think about this whole email funnel thing. Like, when someone gets my product, what kind of email do they get? How do I get the product to them? What's the follow-up to make sure they're getting the product? There's all these extra steps that by getting curious and kind of wandering and exploring, you start to learn these things. So I really encourage you guys to go out there and just get lost, and you'll find everything. You'll find, like, the true magic, things that you can really appreciate that are maybe not around the crowds or whatever. Like, to me, it was authentic Amsterdam. Now, opportunities are going to come up in your life, and recently I started out my 2013 year in Africa. This was something that I couldn't have seen happening in my near future, but it was coming along. And for opportunities that are going to show up in your life, you constantly need to be preparing and positioning yourself for that. Because one day if someone just shows up, hey, Calvin, you want to go to Africa, and if I'm fresh out of college, they're like, you know, you want to come over and shoot a video, maybe climb a mountain, I'll be like, yeah, sure, whatever, I don't know. But I really had to prepare for that. And along the way, I didn't realize, like, that opportunity was going to come. But about a year prior to that, I realized the things I really wanted to start doing, and that was one of my dreams is adventure, micro-documentary, travel documentaries for nonprofits that actually tell stories that impact people. And I remember writing this down on a dream sheet at one of the many dream gatherings I've been to. And so to make that happen, I knew I needed to get better at telling stories. So aside from the business, like client work, we get great client projects, but you know, sometimes restrictions are just selling. It's not the right kind of art that we want to be doing. So I decided to start a side short-lived project called Think, Make, Ship, which was just micro-documentaries with entrepreneurs. It allowed me to learn a little bit more about storytelling, pushed out there, got some views, and eventually after doing that for, I don't know, it took us probably 6 months to create 2 episodes, but a gentleman saw one of those, and he's like, I really like what you're doing. You've got a lot of skill. I want to talk to you about my movement, what we do, and it was called Peak for Poverty, which is a nonprofit based out of Iowa, and they organize stateside, so national and international hikes, then proceeds go to orphans that they sponsor and pays their school fees. So I'm like, great, this is kind of like funneling into my dream. So we connected and we talked about it, and I was like, yeah, here's my dream where I really want to go. I've been kind of doing all this work, like preparing, getting myself, my skills ready, my chops. I'm investing in myself, the business, equipment, all those things. Let's kind of make this happen. But the other thing with opportunities, you need to be in the right position to take them. And had this opportunity come up about a year prior, when I was still like the sole proprietor, the only one in the business, I probably could not have done it because I always constantly have client projects running. I'm constantly shooting, editing, working with. And how do you just kind of put life on hold for 5 weeks, jump across the ocean and go hang out in Africa, climb Kilimanjaro, live in some orphanages? Could I really do that? And thankfully, it was about 8 months previously, I made a huge decision. That was finally bring someone in, which is Alex back there. And I knew I got to a tipping point of where I wanted to go, that I was maxed out and there's nowhere else I could go. So I need to put myself in a position as a company and a person to be able to explore projects that we wanted to do, and the only way we would do that was to actually scale up. So I brought in Alex, and had I not positioned myself like that, I would not have been able to go to Africa. And I've done this a couple other times in my track record in my business, and I did another series once. In college, there's a thing I did called Strip Down, which is just really taking musicians and let's have you play acoustically, and we'll interview you, and we'll just like mix it together and put it on TV somewhere, just as a pure passion project to learn skills, because then I didn't know much about video production. Like I didn't know anything about like directing, audio mixing, really good editing, running a crew. So I did a challenge myself to do that, to pull all that together and actually create like 6 episodes with all these bands and these groups. And so I wanted to revisit that idea because I'm a musician, so I'm very passionate about music. And in Des Moines, I saw this series called Lunch Unplugged, which was really just over the lunch hour, the local performing arts was bringing in touring acts to play. You could come in for like $10 and have lunch and play. Or they would play music and you would enjoy it. So I was like, oh, great. I'm in Des Moines. Maybe I could do this for like, I was thinking exposure. Like I'll just approach them to do kind of the same small documentary thing called Lunch Unplugged, basically. And we'll just videotape their live performances and do interviews and keep crafting my skill set as a storyteller. And pro bono, I went in there and did like 3 episodes just for the sake of the passion because I really enjoyed it. Like, I didn't care about making any money from it. But lo and behold, that turned into a client eventually. About 3 months later, we've had for 3 years now, who I make tens of thousands of dollars a year from. So that little pro bono project that kind of prepared myself, I'm going to prepare and position to just create my own art, actually turned into something. So Africa, back to Africa. Last year, Succeed Faster, there's a bunch of people who had the dream of climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and I'd only heard about that mountain 2 months prior. Like I didn't really know anything about it until I was out in California with someone who was telling me about it. He's like, yeah, it's an epic thing, you should go do it. I'm like, I don't know, that sounds scary, like climb this really huge mountain that takes like 7 days. Like, I don't know about that. Maybe someday when I'm 30 or 40. Fast forward a couple months to Succeed Faster, and all these people are just excited about Kilimanjaro. I want to do it. So I kind of got people ramped up. I was like, you know what? Let's make this happen in a year. Little did I know, 6 months later, I'd be having one of the most amazing breakfasts of my entire life. A granola bar above cloud line. You guys see that? Like planes fly up there. And I'm just sitting there eating a granola bar with my water frozen, freshly not showered for 6 days, get that going on. And this was summit morning. So we still had a couple more hours to go till we would get up to the summit. And eventually I'd be on the rooftop of Africa at 19,000 feet with Peak for Poverty and my guides and doing push-ups on top of a big-ass mountain, one of the 7 summits, alive. Like I would never imagine if you had told me that 6 months prior, like, hey, you'll be on Kilimanjaro. I was like, absolutely no way. But I had prepared to position myself to take opportunities that if they ever arose, I could take them. The other side of Africa was we went over there for storytelling. So not just to climb giant mountains, sure, that's fun. That's part of the story. The whole movement got created from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro because the orphanages are in Tanzania. But we want to actually go live with these kids, get to know them, see how these kids grow up, the places they grow up, and the leadership, the skills that they get to find with, and spend time with these just amazing kids who are so disciplined. At age 5 to 7, we'd like watch them get dressed for school, and they'd be helping each other. I'm just like, man, these kids are more disciplined than I am. Like, I'm really envious right now. And they have very little, and I have everything I could ever need and more. And I meet someone traveling the world. I have to travel now. I have this bug in me to see new places and just get perspectives. Like, go to Amsterdam, just see beautiful things and talk to people, hear stories that will enlighten me, inspire me. Someone like, on the right here is Mohammed Said, which is Peak for Poverty's success story. He was the first one they were able to pay his tuition through kind of high school and get a college degree and eventually become a teacher. And we're filming on the left there. This was a school that he would teach at. And we showed up there, and next thing I know, I have hundreds of kids just swarming me. And I'm like, man, I would never imagine my entire life I'm in Tanzania just hanging out in this small town with all these kids just loving it, biting at my ankles, basically. But Mohammed, I need people like this in my life to really inspire me. I'm very fortunate, I realized after this trip. I mean, you hear these stories, there's people suffering after all over the world. We're growing up in the States, so, things are fine. But you really need that firsthand perspective and be there. Mohammed, someone who has very, very little. He's very unfortunate. He got HIV via a bad blood transfusion at age 14. His parents die. He's the only one left. He has no money, has no family. He would spend every little dollar or shilling that he had on food. Well, not food, excuse me, education. There would be days he'd go 3-4 days without eating just so he could pay his school fees. Because sometimes people for poverty can't pay for everything. Money might run dry. But Muhammad, it was such a pride thing that he knew if he could become a teacher, people would look up to him. So that meant he would spend everything he had to become a teacher. I look at someone who sacrifices that in their life, giving up food or places to live just to become a teacher. And this guy has one of the biggest and greatest smiles I've ever seen. He's more happy than I am. The guy has very little, but he's got a great sense of pride, and things are a simple life. There's been a theme lately in my life that's been popping up, and a couple times like when I'm traveling around, or I've heard it here, a couple people come, they're like, oh man, I wish I had your job. You just get to travel the world. I'm so jealous of your job. I'm like, man, if I really knew what my job was sometimes. It's not just traveling all over. Sometimes it's late nights, clients breathing down your back. I don't have one boss. I have like 15 or 20 bosses called clients. And so people that come to me like, man, I wish I had your life. It just seems like you travel all over. And it's like, I got thinking about this. I'm like, what's so special about my life, my job? And it's not necessarily the job they're after. It's kind of lifestyle that I've been crafting and creating. So it's this concept I've been kind of mulling over for a couple years now. I've been working towards called lifestyle design. It's basically just building the optimal life that you can envision. Take that 10,000-foot step back and look at your life and see what is it that I really want to do? What do I want to strive for? What does my ideal daily life look like? And what do I need to do to make that happen? And some of that comes from, first is investing in yourself. If you're not going to invest in yourself, neither is anyone else, right? And I mean by this skills or growth, whatever it is. If you're not going to obtain skills that you need to create a career, why would anyone want to hire you? If you're ways that I invest in myself over the last couple of years, because I'm just seeking more of a personal growth, a greater person to live my full life. And I started cutting out all the shit in my life. I had a really unhealthy diet. At one point, after busting my ass for a couple of years, I look up from my computer and I'd gained about 50 pounds. It's like, wow, where'd that come from? And I realized if I'm going to be the best I can be, I need to be prepared. If you're not prepared physically, you can't be prepared mentally. If you're going to be addicted to caffeine or soda or fast food, you might not realize you have these addictions, but you sit at your computers every day I need this, and it's going to disrupt my day and my optimal flow. It's you need to get rid of that stuff. So I started to get rid of this shit in my life and started investing in myself. And then I was thinking about things I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to kind of be a dancer, but who would pay $50 for an hour of private dancing? Well, I got thinking, what do I spend a week on soda, right? $2, $4 a day, that adds up pretty quick. Before you know it, you have an extra $50 that you can invest in yourself. I start buying books. I consume books. I consume great media, like cable. I don't own cable. I consume TED Talks and really inspirational things that actually are good for you, and not all that reality TV junk that's out there, and a lot of other things. But invest in yourself, because if you don't, no one else will. So give people, if you do, people will see that you're serious, and they will invest in you, such as people who give me an opportunity to go to Africa. Utilize systems. I've realized in order to do the things I really want to do in life, like lifestyle design, travel, I need to create systems that's going to create income and savings. And so I automate a lot of my life, things that I don't like doing, I outsource that or set up systems, because for instance, bills, I automate that and my savings and all those things, because I would spend, whether it's 1 hour a month, you always got to sit down and do all your bills, or 1 to 4 hours, whatever it is. I simplified it. I was all my bills are going to be due on this day. I'm going to set up automated accounts, so money, I'm going to get paid once a month. It's going to go to this account, pay all these bills. Money's going to go straight to savings, to an IRA, to another personal savings, and eventually I'm going to get a little chunk of spending money. So otherwise, before, I would just get a bunch of money and be like, oh man, I have all this money, what am I going to do with it? I can party like a rock star, right? Before you know it, you're not saving anything. And by doing that, you create extravagant savings just super fast. And it allows you to invest in yourself and buy outfits or take trips. So time is very valuable. It's about it's the most valuable thing you have in your life is time. You're constantly selling time. So if it's simple things like mowing your lawn, like maybe that's an hour every week, right? But what if you'd rather be playing guitar or doing singing lessons or having dance lessons for an hour a week, wouldn't you rather outsource or get rid of that system instead, actually enjoy your fuller life, right? So try to think about some of the things in your life that seem kind of like a burden. You sit down and you're just like, I do not want to do this. It's kind of like those, as Matt was saying, those frogs every morning. But if you can't do the frogs, or if you can outsource those frogs, create systems, absolutely do it. And health, like health was a huge one. So I make sure that now, after like waking up one morning, like looking in the mirror and needing to step back a little bit and get a bigger mirror because I'm filling it up because I'm getting so big, I'm like, I need to take control of myself. So systems, you create habits, like really good habits. I eat healthy. I'm inspired by people in my life like TJ Anderson, Mr. Live Healthy, who's all about vegetables and get rid of candy bars and just this crap in your life. And just basically going back to, if you want to be prepared mentally, you have to be prepared physically. Pursuing my ideal life. What do I need to put in place to pursue it? It's not only some systems, but the other two huge components are mindset. So you need a great mindset, which you've probably heard many of times, but I can't specify this enough, and community. And mindset's going to kind of dictate, it's all about the things you read, things you consume. If you're sitting at home and watching the news, which is very negative Nancy a lot of times, and watching reality TV or just looking at your friends on Facebook who are bitching about life, like negativity breeds negativity. That's going to come into your conscience. It's going to work its way in there slowly. Just like those pounds in my life slowly add up, like one soda at a time turned into two, and before you know it, look at the effects it's having on you. So mindset is key. I get in masterminds. I listen to inspirational things, podcasts, just come to amazing events like this, network with people who are just like vibrating at a whole nother level of greatness. And community. I knew I had to build a great community because in college, we have these people we grew up with in our life. And I struggled with this about 2 years ago. It really hit me that I had all these friends you really grew up with. Like, I'm a small town guy, so you grow up with 13 to 40 people that you really know, and you build these friendships. But as you get older, especially college and out of college, you'll probably drift away. And so it kind of ate at me for a while. I was like, man, I had all these people, all these incredible memories that I have, but now I'm not really in contact with them anymore because my life kind of went this way and their life went that way. It went a different way. And I was talking to my uncle about this, and I was feeling kind of down about it, depressed. I was like, I'm not quite understanding why this is happening. Why can't I keep these people in my life? But at the same time, like they have some really a lot of negative attributes that are not really me. Or maybe they're not negative, but they're just not me. The things that are really interesting, things that I'm pursuing in life. And so I was talking to him. He's like, your whole life, you're smashing a room with a bunch of people, and you're forced to become friends with them. And then you get to college, and you get a chance to reach out and find very like-minded people with the same interest as you, people, maybe the same hobbies. People are going to challenge you, question you. People are going to help you grow. And you start to drift towards those people in your life. And I think I was like, wow, you're right. I guess, the first 20 years of my life, that's only, 1/5 of my probably life expectancy. Because I'm going to live to be 100, absolutely. Coming back to community, it's who's in your flock. You are and you will become the average sum of the 5 people in your life. So if you're hanging around those negative Nancys your whole life, you'll probably become a negative Nancy. And this even happens like on a monetary level. If you're hanging out with people who are, making an income of $20,000, $30,000, relatively poor, you're going to start to develop those same kind of mindsets, and most likely you're going to have the same kind of jobs. You're going to have the same kind of habits as them. You become the same exact person. So I saw those kind of trends in my life, and I knew, I'm like, that's not what I want to be or where I want to go. I know where I want to go, so I need to find these kind of people. So I surround myself, in business obviously, always doing business things, mastermind groups, right? Get in a room with 5 guys twice a month who just challenge each other really hard. How can I grow my business? But it's not only business all the time, because life is really about its character, right? Your character drifts into personal and professional passions and pathways. So, but like I joined a book club with some really great people, and it'll be like books on, psychology and just really stretching your brain, like stuff that's just kind of way out there, but it's like, wow, I'm really enjoying this, and things I'm actually able to let my real emotions out, like things I've been burying for years and stuff that I didn't even know was there. But you have to release those things to become greater people. And so I look at the people who are in my flock who, People, like I said, I mentioned TJ, Live Healthy, so he inspires me to work out. Like Sandy this morning, I wish I could have been there. That's badass. I mean, this guy is constantly working out. And seeing those trends and hanging around those people adapted into my lifestyle. So before you know it, I'm constantly running. I shed 50 pounds, and now I'm getting all these comments like, wow, Cal, you actually look kind of good. Like, what's happening with you now? Like, well, thank you. I actually, got off my ass, and it feels good. And people like Dane Maxwell, who will be here later, but some of you guys know him, but incredible friend of mine, and just really growing and bonding with him and getting on that level and caliber of people, just like everyone else in this room, and always surrounding myself with those types of people. People who are going to challenge me and have my best interest in mind. So I want to give you 3 tactics that I haven't really heard, which is good, because I was hoping to use some new material. 3 tactics which I'm going to coin weapons of mass construction, to be positive. 3 things that I've really been using these last 4 years of my journey. First one is the pivoting path. I sat down with Mitch Matthews, it was probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. It was for coffee one morning. We were talking about my life, like where business was going, where my life was going, but where I wanted to be. And they're 2 different things. And sometimes you're just walking, kind of looking down, and 4 or 5 years will pass, and you're like, oh man, how did I get over here? It's not much farther than where I was. It's not where I want to be. I kind of want to be over there. And so overnight, you can't just be like, I'm going to jump over there and do absolute great things, change the world instantly. You can't do it overnight or pursue your passions. But you can ask yourself, like, what's the 1 to 10 degree shift you can make that'll slowly change your trajectory to get towards that? And so in my professional life, I was doing a lot of client work that wasn't exciting me all that much. I wasn't doing the storytelling that I really wanted to do. I was doing great projects that were, filling my pockets and paying the bills, allowing us to scale. But in my heart, I want to do work that changes and inspires people. So that's where I was talking to Mitch, and he's like, so what can you do to kind of slowly shift to get you on the right trajectory of where you need to go? I'm like, yeah, that's where I'm going to go back to doing those personal kind of projects so that people can see those types of work, and I'll get exposure. They'll be like, we want to hire this guy because A, he's invested in himself, and he's doing really great things. Because no one was going to pay me to do it, I might as well go do it myself, right? And honestly, my favorite work to do is work that I don't get paid for. There's no monetary gain from it. That's like the most fulfilling work that I can do. And so I call it the pivoting path. Like, how can you slowly pivot to get to your final destination of where you'd like to be? So maybe ask yourself, where's your ultimate end goal, or what career, or what job do you want to be in? What can I start doing today that might get me there? Maybe it's learning a new trait, a new skill. Maybe it's hanging around with different people. Maybe it's sitting down and having coffee with someone, networking. What are those things? Maybe they're fitness goals. If you want to run a marathon, well, maybe tomorrow I'll run a half a mile. I know I can't run a marathon tomorrow, but make a small change, and then eventually in your course, you'll get there. The next one is the focus avoidance list. Write down like the 30 things in life that you really want to do. Professionally, maybe personally. It's not always about business. Maybe it's personal goals, whatever they may be, travel goals. Write those 30 things down. Kind of like a bucket list, but just do 30 of them. And then I want you to rank the 5 top ones. So just grab those top 5. And those you pull over to a list called your focus list. And everything else goes to what you call the avoidance list. And you're not allowed to touch, even look at, even think about, even smell, hear anything on that avoidance list until you do that focus list. Like, you set goals. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year, it doesn't matter. You work on the focus list. And when you get one of those items done, like maybe it's a travel goal, like I want to go to Galapagos Islands or something, you cross that off. And then you're allowed to pull one more thing over and keep that focus list at 5. You keep it at 5, no more. So use that tool to decide the things you want to work on so you're not distracted by new shiny objects, because that'll happen a lot in your life. You'll get this new idea, or you'll see something you just want to chase. It's a shiny object that's really distracting you from what you need to be doing, the work that's most important. And the other one is the 20-mile march. So the 20-mile march, it's basically a historical, I want to say modern day, early 20th century story of the tortoise and the hare fable. In 1911, there's 2 famous explorers, Roald Amundsen from Norway and Robert Scott from England. They both wanted to be the first person to get to the South Pole. So they loaded up some teams and they just started heading there. And Robert Scott, his game plan was, the days it's really nice at the North Pole, we're just going to bust ass and go as far as we can go. And some days they'd get like 60-some miles. And days it's rainy, crappy, really cold, we just won't go anywhere. And Amundsen, his goal, or his game plan was, we're just going to do 20 miles, rain or shine, every single day. And so when Scott finally gets to the South Pole, he gets there and he's too late. You would think the guy doing 60 miles or as fast as he can on the good days would be there, but he gets there and there's already Amundsen's flag is there. So they lost the race to the South Pole, and on their way back, most everybody, if not everybody, on Robert Scott's team ended up dying from sickness and illness from pushing too hard. They'd overexert themselves. Burnout. And it comes down to that procrastination and burnout are equal enemies to success. So you think about those all-nighters that you might be pulling, burning the midnight oil, like, I'm just going to crush it, I'm so busy, I'm just going to go, 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 go. It's not in your best interest. It's what are the small, little wins every day, those habits that you can do that'll get you to your end goal. And that's what Amundsen's team was doing. And how I apply this in my life is, in December, I had this crazy idea. I was reading some blog thing, and I like to do I was like, 2013 is going to be the year of challenges. Plus, I've just worked on this like fitness, just trying to get really fit. And I came across this guy who created like 2 apps or something, and his write-up was he always wanted to do this challenge of 36,500 push-ups in 1 year challenge. It didn't matter how you did them. You could do them all in one day. If you're a super rock star, spread them out. And I was like, all right, this sounds doable. And he created an app, and I was like, but it comes down to doing 100 push-ups a day. I was like, so why don't I just do this? You know, you think of your New Year's resolutions, and it was like December 23rd or something. And I'm like, I'm just going to start today. I used to try to do like 10 push-ups a day, and they would never get done. You know, it was just like really, I don't know, hard. Like this goal, it kind of seemed, it was a challenge. It's like somewhat obtainable. So today is day 215 that I've been doing 100 push-ups every single day. It's not a large quantity, but it's more about building discipline in your life and doing those 20-mile marches. I've actually been building this incredible team of supporters. Like at first I was like, I'll just do it. And then some other people found out about it, and then Alex the next day, he joined me, so he's just a day behind me. And then we have people like James Roper, Chandler Bolt, and they're just like setting the stage for this. Like first, like I just want to do 100 push-ups, whether it's like one before I eat my Cheerios in the morning, one at noon, I don't care what it is. Before I know, we got people like Chandler just blowing it up, cranking out 100 at one time. And so I think at the end of this, we'll get maybe Chandler to do 100 push-ups in a row, right? But Chandler, you're on what, day 15 in a row? Like 15 in a row of being able to do 100 straight every time. So incredible. So 20-mile marches. What are the small wins that you can do every single day? All right, now I want to talk about that whole analogy I started off with, the captain of your own ship and not wanting to be like a deckhand. Did I say that in the beginning? I hope so. I chose to be a captain, not a deckhand. Good. So I'm going to be wrapping this up. But the vessel for the open sea. And really it's like the open sea of opportunities. And at one point in my life, I kind of found myself in this place I've just called the safe harbor. There's some waters. I'll just say I was in a ship, and I would call this like post-college, whatever. Just follow me on the story. And you have a vessel, right next to it would be Placenville, is what I want to call it. A little town where it has everything you ever need in life, and it'd be okay to like live a good life, but maybe not my best life I really have, like out in the sea of opportunities. So I'm on this vessel, captain of your own ship, and I need 3 things to hit out on the open seas and just go for it. And one of them is a map. By map, I mean mindset. I don't need A to B, but it's more of a guide that's going to get me somewhere. So I'm constantly working on my mindset, like positivity, growth, all those things. Like say, instead of having the why mentality, talking to him, I guess. All right. Whoa. So I have a map, which is my mindset, and so that's going to kind of dictate, show me where to go a little bit, and then I'm going to need a stellar crew to help me on this ship, right? And the crew is the community that I'm building. People that are my mentors, people that are my colleagues, my peers, but people who have my best interest in mind, people that are challenging me, people like every single one of you in here, every single one of you, people in my mastermind. And that crew necessarily wasn't, it might not be my family and friends that I originally started with in life, but it's the new people, like I said, with the best interest. And then the third thing that I really need to head out to the open sea, I need some wind in my sails. And that's determination. You can have desire, but desire is nothing without determination. So you have to be determined to get out to that sea. Now, before I head out there, what's one thing you do on a ship to get it moving you have to do? Anyone? Anchor, right? There's going to be an anchor. And so I think about the anchors in my life, and anchors can fall into three categories. You have physical anchors, you have mental, and emotional. And physical, I kind of think of like, what are the things that are holding you down in life? Kind of like a ball and chain. What's holding you from going after your dream job or living in your dream city or just doing your dream business? What are those? And so physical things might be, maybe you own a house, maybe it's your lodging, maybe it's your rent's too high, your mortgage payment's too high, you own a big fancy car because you got a great job, so you bought this huge house and car, and now you're maxed out, and you have no extra money to invest in yourself to go do the things that you really want to do. It might even be a physical handicap that you think you can't get over. You might feel like you don't have the physical strength. Mental, like those things are all self-doubt. Maybe you doubt yourself. Can I really go out there? Could I climb Mount Kilimanjaro? Can I move to Europe after college graduation and start my career over there, or should I stay close to home? Or maybe I can't move out to California because it's way too expensive. I'd love to be there, but it's just too expensive. Indecisiveness, like you're always battling yourself, yes or no, yes or no. Should I do it? I don't know. Today I'm going to say yes, tomorrow I'm going to say no. I just talked to mom and dad. They said no, they said yes. Always seek advice from people with experience. So make sure whatever advice you're trying to seek in your mentality that people have gone through that experience. That way it's actually validated. And then the other category would be emotional. And I relate this to relationships, friends, and family. You know, maybe you're scared to leave your family at home. Your family might not want you to leave, but maybe you want to leave, but you're going to be selfless and stay with them. But kind of think about your best interest in minds and relationships. Like, am I with the right person in my life? Is this person is this person making me better, or are they dragging me down? Am I sad half the time when I'm with my significant other? They make me upset. They don't care about my career. They want me to move far away with them, but don't care about my dreams. So emotionally, I relate that back to relationships. So think of all the anchors in your life that's preventing you from doing what you really want to do. The greatest gift that we have as humans is choice. Think about that. That's what really separates us from about any other species out there is we have a conscience. We're able to choose. Life is a sum of decisions. You're here today because you guys made a decision. Where you're going to go in the future is based on decisions that you're going to make. The amount of money you're going to make someday in your overall career based off choices that you make, what job you take, what you decide to pursue. Life is all about, it's a sum of all the decisions. Where you end up, your greatness relies on your shoulders. It's all about your choice and your decisions. So someday it's going to come where you're going to be on a ship and the fog's going to clear, and you're also going to be in this safe harbor. You're going to start to get a little curiosity, like when you were a kid thinking, man, I wonder what's out there. And you're going to wonder, am I prepared for this to enter the sea of opportunities? Am I in the right position to go there? You're going to look over and there's going to be Complacentville, and there's going to be an awesome possible crew on the shore filled with your family and your friends. Like, they're a good crew, and you could stay there. You could stay in the safe harbor in Complacentville. It has everything you ever need and maybe could ever want to have a good life, but maybe not to have your best life. And so it's going to be up to your decision to rally the best possible crew you have, get on your ship, and when that wind slowly starts to pick up your determination a little bit, starts to get that sail moving, then I want to leave you with this final question, and that's, are you just going to drop the anchor, or are you going to set sail? Why don't you think about that?